Well, welcome to the Bishop's Palace. My name's Siobhan Goodwin. I'm the Community Engagement Manager here, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about what we're trying to do to reduce our carbon footprint here. The Palace Trust, we're the charity that manage the site as a visitor attraction. We're trying to reduce our carbon footprint by 50% by 2030 and to reach net zero by 2050. So that's a big ambition, but we're really keen to try new initiatives, learn from what other people are doing. I'm going to take you around now and show you some of the things that we've been working on. So here we are outside the Bishop's Table, our cafe here on site. On top of that building are some solar panels, and those solar panels obviously provide energy for use in the cafe. Now, we upgraded those solar panels a couple of years ago, so the ones we've got now are much more efficient. Also, in terms of providing underfloor heating for the cafe and the whole of the area to the left of it, the stable yard area, we actually have some coils in the moat, and there's a heat exchange system, and that provides the heating for that area. So we're very fortunate to have that technology. Obviously, in the cafe, we try where we can to use produce from the gardens, and that reduces the food miles. So here we are just outside the entrance hall here at the palace. Now, inside there, you'll have seen there's just a little device behind the radiator, behind the storage heater. And that means that we can check the temperature inside and compare it to the outside temperature. And that's a very efficient way of trying to heat that space. So obviously, with a grade one listed building like this, there are serious limitations to what we can do. For example, we can't simply put in double glazing, but what we try and do is make what we have as efficient as possible. So, for example, we recently replaced the storage heaters on the first floor with much more efficient ones. We are reliant on getting permissions, of course, to make any changes here. And so, for example, an air source heat pump on the outside of the building would be a complete no-go. But, for example, solar panels, we may be able to have on top of the building as long as they aren't visible to the public. And of course, solar panels much more efficient these days, and so that may well be worth us doing. So here we are out in the gardens. We can see the rampart bank here, and you'll notice that the grass is quite long. I can see a few bees over there already. And so we deliberately let the grass grow long these days. We didn't used to, but we do now, just to increase the biodiversity. So we do have shrews living here. We have obviously plenty of insects visiting, and butterflies, dragonflies, and so on. And so it's something that we're really proud of. And actually, it does look really attractive. Here we are in our more formal gardens now, and this is one of the newer initiatives here at the Bishop's Palace in Wells, which is our exotic border. So the planting in this bed was replaced last year with drought-resistant plants, and that means, of course, that the gardeners don't have to worry so much about watering the plants, and also it's much less maintenance for them, and it just is also a very good example to visitors of what they might like to do in their gardens as well. Now, of course, that we're getting increasingly longer periods of drought, and people are always looking for ideas of what they can do at home. So now we're in the outer gardens. This is a 14-acre site, in fact, including the moat and our HS partner gardens. And we're very fortunate, of course, to have this supply of water, on average about 4 million gallons a day. And we make use of it best we can at the moment. So we do have a pump that can supply some of the water to taps out in our community garden. And also we have looked into potentially having a turbine in the waterfall, in the pipe beneath the waterfall. Now, currently, the technology for that is prohibitively expensive. But in the future, the cost of that may come down, or we may be fortunate enough to get a grant, some financial help to install a turbine. But at the moment, from the charity's point of view, that isn't worth it for us. But there is the opportunity to potentially create some energy from the water here. So looking to the future for us, it would be quite exciting if we could use some of the water for more practical things around the site. So here we've got a bug hotel, rather a fancy one, I think you'll agree. And this was created by students from the local secondary school, the Blue School. And, it houses all sorts of weird and wonderful bugs and insects. And you can just see down here a little bit of water, and that just helps create the diversity. So here we are out in the community garden, and we have some of the compost bins. We've got more at the other side of the garden as well. And of course, this is a great way to nourish the soil, but also use up the waste. And I know that they take the composting very seriously. There's a sign here about what you can put in and what you can't put in. So have to be quite strict about it. Also in this location, if we just look in this direction, you might be able to just catch a glimpse of the pond. And the pond, of course, creates a perfect environment for a diverse range of creatures and planting. And then on the corner here, we've got a tap, and that tap, the water from there is provided from the well pools. The other thing the gardeners are keen to do here is to make sure that we use the planting that we've got as much as possible. So dividing plants, collecting seeds and so forth. And so we try and include lots of students, people who want to volunteer here, so that we can teach them about the composting and how to garden in an environmentally friendly way. I mean, we're almost organic here, but not quite, because the croquet lawn is treated a couple of times a year by an outside firm that come in, and they do need to use some weed killers on there. And sometimes the walls do require that we use a treatment on there. But in terms of the soil and the planting in the gardens, that is all organic. So this space here you can see is a work in progress. So as I say, we're always looking for new opportunities. And what's happening here is that you can see that we're having an extended veranda around the gardener's mess room. And that's so that groups that come in to use the community garden can use it more all year round, because we found in recent summers it's sometimes been too hot out here for people. So this will give some shade in the summer and then some protection in the winter. And obviously, I'm sure you're all aware, we increasingly get unexpected rainfall, extended periods of rainfall. This means we can continue with the groups, and people can continue to come in on a much more regular basis all year round. So here you can see one of our water butts. There's a few around the site. This one is collecting water from the roof of the greenhouse. So where we can, we're reusing rainwater. This is the miniature orchard here in the community garden, and we harvest the apples from here, and we have pears elsewhere on site, and that goes to make apple and pear juice, which we sell in the shop and the cafe. We're out here in the Arboretum, which also doubles up as the Dragon's Lair, the children's play area, and this is called a dead hedge, which is a bit ironic really, because there's actually a lot of life in here. But you create a dead hedge by putting old twigs and branches, anything that will form a structure within these posts. And so it's a great way of getting rid of spare material and creating a really rich environment. So, for example, you might find hedgehogs in there, or all sorts of insects and fungi and larvae and all that kind of thing. So it's just an interesting project, and actually certainly over the years it's really fitted in well, and you see the height of it going down, so then we can top it up again. I hope you can notice behind me as well the areas where we've let the grass grow long. And again, we do that wherever is practical and possible. And the visitors really like to see that we're doing that nowadays. So I hope you'll have a chance to come and visit the Bishop's Palace and see what we're doing in person. A lot of what I've spoken about in this video really relates back to a learning module that we created a couple of years ago with Historic Houses Association for GCSE students about sustainability. So thank you for joining me on this short tour around the palace and the grounds, just to give you an insight in what we're trying to do, as I say, to reduce our carbon footprint by 50% by 2030 and reach net zero by 2050. While you're here visiting the Bishop's Palace, a lot of what I've spoken about on the video is actually here on these information signs. They're a sort of pale green colour around the site.